All right, welcome back to the channel. I want to show you guys some batch fade and audio tips in the Fairlight page. So let's zoom into this 1K tone here. And if we take a look at this waveform, this is just a sine wave. But as you can see, you got this little thin white line in the middle. That's called a zero crossing. So whenever there's two audio edits or two media clips butted up against one another, they need to cross at this zero crossing. And what I mean by that is, let me put the playhead here, and you could see where this positive waveform and negative waveform come up and down. If I was to make an edit here, you wouldn't hear anything. But if we make an edit here or here, you would hear a click or a pop. If we make this, and then let's say we move the edit around, you could see how it's misaligned now. That's essentially what you're doing when you're doing roll edits, removing ums and ahs and all that stuff. Let's zoom into this other waveform here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right here, I'd slid a clip back, and you could see this clip on the right has this positive waveform, while the preceding clip has this flat line. And that happens any time you make an edit and do a shift or a rolling edit. There's a better view of that. We need to add a fade or some kind of transition at every one of these cuts. Now you could go in manually and add them, and you could do it under this audio transitions here and zoom in, grab crossfade and drop it right over your edit. But that's going to take too long. So what we're going to use is under the Fairlight menu, towards the bottom, we have this apply batch fades and batch fade settings. So let's take a look at this dialog box. We have a fade in, which would be the beginning of your clip and what kind of curve you're going to use, how long you want the fade to be. We have a crossfade, which is for in between clips, which is what we want. And then we have a fade out. Now, all of these have the override existing checkbox, which is great if you need to make a change, or let's say we have a fade in, fade out established, and we only need crossfades. You can deselect those. And one thing to keep in mind with the crossfade, for this kind of in the middle edit, we want equal power. And you can see it changes the type of fade over here. This is best for any kind of edit that isn't really music. Equal gain works best if you're cutting up a song. And it's just through sound and experimentation that I'd recommend that. So since we're just doing this dialogue track, vocal track, we're going to go equal power, the curve, how it is, and I'm going to put it to 4 frames. This is the only one active with this little red mark. And if you want to use milliseconds, you can. There's a fade unit drop down box here. So crossfade 4 frames, fade in and out is off. Let's hit apply. We have crossfades on all of our edits now without having to go into each one and mess with it. Now here's a little feature that I discovered. I don't know if you want to call it a bug. Let's say you wanted to get rid of this crossfade and you have your override existing on, and let's say you wanted to make it 0 frames, which would be no crossfade whatsoever. If we hit apply, as you can see when I hit the apply button, if you're fast enough, it adds a 1 frame in there and won't go to 0. So how do we get rid of these crossfades on all these clips without having to go in? Well, there's a little workaround on the edit page. So let's shift over to the edit page with shift 4. And you can see here we have a visual representation of the crossfades. We need to select all, and from the effects menu, grab the crossfade and drop it down onto one of these crossfades. Now, whenever it does that, it deselects all your other clips except the crossfades, and that's on all the audio tracks. And then go ahead and hit delete, and now jump back over to the Fairlight page with shift 7, and you can see the UI updates. Now none of our edits have the crossfade on it, and we're back to where we were. Another thing, if we go back to the edit page, let's say at the beginning of the track here, we throw a fade on of 10 frames, and we go to the end and do the same thing. Jump back to the Fairlight page and zoom in. We can see our fade handles have been applied to the front and the end. And let's go batch fade settings. We could go fade in, fade out. Let's go ahead and we'll make this a 5. And we'll do crossfades again. Let's do 5 also. And we have override existing. Let's hit apply. There we have new fades, new 5-frame fades in the front. And then we have our crossfade between every audio edit. And that's how you can go back in and adjust that without having to drop one in or hit a transition for every single edit. That's batch fades and batch fade settings. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.